reason that is that it's an easy thing to do to run a decal, and that company that supports us in 2019, if he sees a photo of your car or a group of cars and his decal's not on there, the chance of him supporting our series the following year is diminished by 180%. I mean, it's a small thing. He's supporting, they're supporting us. They ask for the decal on the car. We make sure we do a good job with that. Not a big thing, but to that person and that company, it is a big thing. So we're kind of picky about stuff like that. I always say, let's control the things that are controllable in our sport. Once we roll the cars on the racetrack, we kind of lose control a little bit. So everything that leads up to that point, we try to control the best we can. And I don't want to sound like we're Nazis. I'm just saying we're going to work together. If we have a problem, we put our hand on your back and say, hey, we need you to make sure and do this for us because everyone else is doing it. Right down to, I have this thing because in the Southwest Tour, no one really gripes at me about anything except this one thing. If we say pit gates open at 10 on Saturday, and my teams roll up at 9:55 at the back gate to come in, they look in, and there's 4 teams already in there, that's the one thing that I hear the most about. So our deal is, if we say 10 o'clock on pit gates, we're all waiting there at 9:55 to go in together. It's just one of those things, because we're going to do it the same together. If we say no this or no that, we're all going to do it, just so that everyone feels like no one's getting the advantage and everyone's getting treated the same. My dad, Marion Collins, he always told me years ago, he said if there's a rule, it's the same for everybody, it's a good rule. So we'll apply that as much as we can.
Larry, can I ask a quick question that came to mind on pit gate? Mm-hmm. Obviously, when you're during just SRL, that's one thing, and then you've got another 100 guys in the modified deal. Are they going to go through the same line and everything? In other words, is the line going to be 200 people long instead of?
We'll do all we can to keep you and your teams from standing in lines. Nobody likes to stand in line, period, for anything. So that's a great.
How's the pre-entry going to work? Is that going to be like the West, where you pre-enter the race before, get your armband, sign in? You don't have that stuff to deal with now?
No, and most of the racetracks are against that, and that's why we don't do it. But that's a great point with Greg. We don't need two series with 25 teams each all waiting in the same line. So we'll do what we can to either stagger that or make sure they have more than one line open. But I think staggering the times might be the best thing. So maybe we'll work on that.
Like in Vegas?
Yeah,
Vegas, there's one door for
yes.
one and one door for the other?
Yeah.
So we all have to wait for the same door.
They're
We'll
not
be
a
there
track, they could
for a while.
accommodate that.
Yeah. So, I mean, because again, that's the sort of thing that we put a lot of thought into. We don't need you driving 3 hours or whatever and then getting out and standing in a 1 hour line to get in. So we'll do all we can there, and if anyone has any suggestions or if you're dissatisfied with how it went one weekend, be it Bandera or wherever we're at, just let me know. I mean, we'll work to do a better job on that, because those are the things that are important to us. I mean, there's top to bottom, that sort of thing, what we do in tech, our rules, how we enforce them, how we schedule, all that's important, top to bottom. But that is a great point. I don't want to say anything that's going to scare anybody. We do things a certain way. Doesn't mean that the way we do the tour cars is the way we're going to do the modifieds. We're going to do what works for the modifieds. 10 years ago, I hired an official. She worked for me when my family had Mesa Marin Raceway, and now she works for me on the SRL Southwest Tour, and she'll run the scales for both series. And 10 years ago, I said, Michelle, the cars are supposed to weigh 2,900 pounds, not 2,899, but 2,900, because if they're going to be 2,899, we're going to change the rule. If they're going to be 57%, it's 57.0. If we're going to allow 57.2, we're going to change the rule. So at first, the teams are like, wait a minute, come on, I'm only one over a month. But telling you what, over the last 9 years and 8 months, it's the best thing we could have ever done. Because if you give a team a 0.1 or a 0.2, pretty soon, come on, it's just 0.3. That's just kind of our philosophy. I'm not saying, I'm just letting you know how some of my officials are used to doing the job. If there's a problem with this approach, just let me know. But we found that over the last decade, it's worked good. Now we'll use the same set of scales, 'cause I know in the past, the series has used different scales, so sometimes you gotta take that into consideration. I have no problem with that. But we're gonna try to always have our own set of scales, so they're always consistent, you guys know what to expect. So there are things like that, and other things in the rule book that if we need to clean a rule up by clarifying it, if we need to change a rule, if we need to eliminate a rule, I'm good with that too. So I don't want us to get into the first few races and there's a rule in our rule book that says a certain thing, but the cars in the pits aren't to that. I'd prefer to know that sooner rather than later, so that maybe we adjust the rule. You know, just for example, if there's a spoiler, the spoiler width, if all the cars are an inch over that spoiler width, and they're all an inch over it, I'd prefer to change the rule than to change all the spoilers on the cars. And you can take that across the board. If there's something that everyone's doing that's not quite to the rules, because let's get
Don't go and
together.
widen your spoilers out,
Yeah.
leave them like they are, right?
Yeah, don't everyone show up with a wider spoiler. But you understand my point. I don't want
This
it.
problem firsthand.
I don't want everyone working on their race car if we can just do it by the change of some number in the rule book. It's just kind of in general. In the beginning, my staff will probably check a lot of things just to see where we're all at, but we're not here to run anyone off, believe me. I mean, it's open arms, just trying to do the best job we can for all of you at all times. And if any of my officials ever ruffle your feathers or treat you in a way you don't appreciate, just come straight to me. Because I'm telling you, the basis of our staff is, I'll take someone that knows nothing about the technical side of the sport, if they're a good person that gets along with people. I'll take that person all day long to some person that knows all there is about a race car, can do all the tech inspection with their eyes closed, but don't treat people right. I don't want that person. So what I've found over the years is build that staff that have that quality both sides of the equation there. The way the staff will go, and it's kind of out of necessity, we run both series together. We'll have some staff devoted to the modifieds. We'll have some staff devoted to the tour cars. When the cars go on the track, some of the staff will come together. Some of the staff will work together maybe in post-race, maybe sometimes in pre-race, but it's kind of like if you have a two-car operation, as many of you do, it makes more sense to take two cars to the racetrack. Well, the same thing for us. If both series are at the racetrack, it makes more sense to us by sharing the staff, traveling one time. So there's those economies of scales that work for us too. Right now, Havasu will be a race that'll be, the modifieds will be on their own there, and probably Orange Show if we do get that done.
Are you guys not going to Stockton this year with the SRL?
It's still on the table.
We can take the mods there, I'm good with that.
I'm good with that.
Really? Yeah.
That's 8 miles from my house.
I'd rather go there
Just
than
go
Orange
there.
I'd rather go there than Orange Show.
Would you?
Yeah.
So would I.
we
I'm
don't-
with him on that.
We don't
Okay.
like Orange Show.
Okay. All right.
The problem with Orange Show is they don't run quality tires on their local series.
Yeah.
So when we start putting rubber down, the track just keeps changing and changing and changing and changing.
Okay.
And
It's
the
hard
problem
for
with
us to keep
Stockton was
up.
Tony. That's it.
Is Tony? Believe me, I know. No, and again, where we go as a race series it's your input on us on where you guys want to go and how often, what size tracks. I mean, my approach has always been geographically do what you can to make it diverse. The type of racetrack, try to make it diverse. In years, of course, you guys are used to going to Tucson and to Salt Lake City. We're not going to either place this year, so hopefully that means a little less travel, a little savings on the budget. But I'm not opposed to getting on the road if you guys aren't. But I just know that, I know when you start making a 10 or 12, 14-hour trip and you do it year after year after year, sometimes we need to slow this down. So sometimes we'll go, okay, let's bring it closer to home for a couple years, and maybe we won't travel too far. But then maybe after that second year, we go, hey, let's go back to Tucson, or hey, maybe Colorado National wants us. I don't know. Maybe Shasta Speedway wants us. But those decisions will be made with you. But I'm just saying that, I know sometimes we like going to different racetracks, but it gets stale. is going to try something different. So, again, your input and feedback will help us do what you guys would prefer us to do. Other than that, it's communication. I'm not great, I'll just say this, I'm not great on the cell phone because my days are pretty jam-packed. I'm not complaining. I love what I do. That's why email and text are pretty good because that gives me, when I have the opportunity, I'll get back to you. Doesn't mean you can't call me. Please call me if that's what you want to do or if you need me right away. And vice versa. I might send you guys an email and say, hey, we're getting ready to go to Havasu. What time, with your travel schedule, what's the best times we should open the gates? Stuff
You'll
like
find
that.
most of us are the same exact way.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it takes time.
Sure. But I have business cards here, so I just want, if you don't have one, take some, and I just want to build that database of emails so that everybody's in the loop on what's going on. The more we communicate going in, I think we're always better while we're at the racetrack. I'm not going to get it 100% right all the time, neither is my staff, but I don't have any problem with anyone being critical of something that we're doing as managers of the series, ever. Because unless you tell me, we don't know. So I never take it as a complaint or whatever. Even if it is a complaint, that's how we get better. We're kind of like managing a race series is like managing a race team. You try to put your best foot forward and bring the best product you can to the track, and sometimes it goes great, sometimes not so great, but if you're prepared, in most cases it goes pretty well. And we take the same approach.
One of the things that had been brought to my attention is with the two series, obviously you put together a great television package and so forth, but so that both series feel that they're on an even playing field, do you intend to rotate who is the primary event at a given track? Now, there's no doubt about it at the showdown, SRL cars and your big race of the year, that's the primary show. The modifieds are, I don't want to say secondary, but
Right.
it'll be the show that runs. When we go to Madera or Vegas, do you plan on rotating that or doing anything marketing-wise where the modifieds become the primary show of that given night?
Well, for one thing, I think alternating who goes first on the main events is one thing we'll do. And we're going to do all we can at all times not to feel like one's above the other, right down to how we park. And like I said, some things like maybe on one event, the modifieds will come in before the tour cars and vice versa. We'll just maybe flip that, if that makes sense at the back gate, get the modifieds parked, then bring the tour cars and then vice versa in some cases. The main events definitely will flip those. I have no problem with that. But yeah,
It's just a feel-good thing,
yeah, I mean, yeah,
that you're not,
and again,
you're not the street stock division by any means to the SRL.
Well, Darren, the guy in this room that thinks SRL is better than us.
right, absolutely.
Right, there
Yeah,
you go.
yeah. And if you guys ever feel that way, just again, let me know. Like, hey, we kind of feel this way. I need to hear that. I really do. It's the only way we're going to make this thing better.
Obviously, Larry, I think when it comes to the rules, I think everybody will pretty much agree. There's no manufacturing rule changes coming down. It's not like we're going to aftermarket stubs or quick changes or
Right.
any of those kind of conversations
Right.
and so forth. I mean, the hardcore rules are concrete.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we get into race procedures, there's 4 or 5 areas that we've already talked about and stuff. Do you intend to get some information out to the racers prior to the February race? For instance, the cone is one of them. The Delaware restart that we do and you don't. The impounding of cars after qualifying. Just different race procedures
Right.
that happen. How do you intend to address that to the guys so that they know prior to the show? What's your intent?
Well, of course, anything, you'll know what's going on before that first event, I promise you. I was a little concerned with having both series, one race director, and different procedures, just because I've been in that position. You're up there in that tower, and you're trying to remember, okay, how do we do this again? Seriously, so with Tim Richter coming on board and being the race director for the modifieds, I can have whatever set of procedures I want with the modifieds and whatever set of procedures I have for the tour cars, because I'm going to have 2 different race directors. So, again, I might propose some ideas. What do you guys think about this? I might say, I'm just hypothetical. I'm not a fan of the cone rule. Well, if you guys are fans of the cone rule, then we keep the cone rule. If I say I'm not a fan of whatever, still, it's not about me, it's about you guys. But that's how we'll start the conversation. The only thing I worry about in the cone rule is someone out there picking up that cone. And I'm serious.
But it
I
There's
worry
been a
about
couple
that.
of guys killed. A couple of years ago, there was a guy killed in a sprint car race, and they do it with a damn rope.
Yeah. But if the teams and the drivers enjoy the cone rule, I'm willing to stick with it. But that is one thing, as crazy as that sounds, one of my staff members being out there on the racetrack scares me, especially at some of the racetracks.
I can tell you, Larry, in that respect, that when it comes to the cone, that all our eyes are on that man.
Yeah.
And we have a procedure in place, whereas one guy, happens to usually be Bill, is watching this man's back.
Yeah.
And he has headsets and everything. All I'm saying is we recognize how dangerous it is doing that.
Yeah.
The cone is, we become creatures of habit. I think everybody here likes the cone because of the creature or the habits we have.
You know,
The
talking
double
about-
file restart, I think the guys like.
Another thing talking about just the safety of the cone deal is the American flag deal.
Yes.
You know, you get 2 guys on the racetrack, you're picking the flags up.
Well, but
Yeah.
But that's under very controlled speeds and everything.
But still, there's 2 guys standing on the racetrack.
That
And-
cone, the downside of the cone is the middle of the pack. And the driver's waiting for the spotter to tell him to go high or low. And the next thing you know is now you got cars all the way around the racetrack because the 10th place car parked off the 10 cars behind him. There are some positive and negative. When it comes to safety, I'm first in line. I have no bitches when it comes to safety. And especially at a place like Kern, where the speeds are so damn high. Maybe, we're just talking, maybe at Kern, where, we do the cone at the start-finish line only because it's safer. Brownie's been doing it there. Possibly, maybe at Kern, it's a single file restart, no cone, or a crossover restart, whatever's to be decided by your group and so forth. I think the guys said, let me back up just a second. Are they going to have the opportunity to answer a questionnaire that is directed to, let's say, these 5 areas
Oh, yeah.
of race procedures and get it back to you? How are
Yeah.
you going to do that?
Probably, with that, what I like to do is I'll send out an email and say, hey, send me 5 things that you'd like to see changed, and then send me 5 things that you absolutely don't want changed no matter what. And then what that does is it allows me to just look at that and then send another email and go, hey, I'm about 50-50 on this. 80% of the respondents said this on this topic, and then kind of let you know what I got back, and then we kind of go from there. But the race procedures, if everyone says just leave them alone, I'm good with that. The tap rule I'm not a fan of, but that, again, it's not about me. It's not about me. With the tour cars, and don't like beat that to death, it's just I've been doing it for 10 years and I adopted the same rules at Kern now, but when there's a yellow, we don't care who's involved in the yellow. So my point is this: car goes into turn 3, or 2 cars go into turn 3, and they get together and they spin, the yellow comes out, and they were running 3rd and 4th. If both those cars get going and get rolling and blend back in 10th and 12th, that's where they restart. I'm not saying we're gonna do that, I'm just saying that takes away the whole who was involved and who wasn't involved. So I'm okay reverting back. The only part I don't like about reverting back when we have a yellow is who was involved. Sometimes that's hard to determine. You know, I mean, two cars get together, a third car rolls up, stops, maybe makes contact, maybe he doesn't, maybe a car spins to avoid those two that spun. Who was involved? To me, I've always had a hard time with that, so I just eliminated that. But the plus side is that we know where everybody was when on the previous lap completed, who wasn't involved. So that's just a couple things that, staying with what we have, those are the sort of things I need very well defined. If there's a yellow that comes out, who was the cause of the yellow and who goes to the back? Because I sure don't want to put someone to the back that shouldn't have been sent to the back, you know? I'd rather miss something and keep that car where it was at. But if cars, it doesn't matter if a car gets into somebody, we consider that rough drive, and that car's going to restart at the tail end of the field. We're pretty intolerant of rough driving because we feel this way, just like a lot of things that the officials do at the racetrack on a given weekend. If someone spins a driver and we let that go, it sends a message to everyone else in that race that night that, well, that must be okay. And that's not what we want. We'd prefer to send the message, that's not okay, we're not going to drive that way. So there's a lot of that plays in the decisions that are made at the racetrack, that everything that officials do sends a message to the rest of the teams. So, but, you know, rough driving usually just causes people to spend money and tear up race cars that doesn't need to be. And plus, I'm a big proponent of when you all come to the racetrack on a given weekend, you're looking forward to going to the races and hanging out with the people that you race with. I know, I've been in this a long time, I know things happen on the racetrack, I know feuds can start, but if we can keep that to a minimum and handle things, I mean, most of us are adults in this deal, and even if we're not an adult, we can all work it out. But if things happen on the racetrack and you have a problem with that driver, I'd like to get involved and try to temper that, because I know they can escalate, and then next thing you know, every time these two cars get together, there's smoke flying and somebody might be going for a ride. So, and then when you're driving to the racetrack that weekend, all you can think about is how much you dislike that son of a gun. I'm going to put him in the fence if he gets close to me. It doesn't have to be that way, believe me. And I always say it'll start at the top, and if I talk about it enough, somebody's going to buy into it. And that's just the way I like it to be. I like it to go to the races. We're there for 2 days, and we're supposed to be there to enjoy it. And I like just that positive, good feeling atmosphere between the teams. And if things happen on the racetrack and you're hot, well, before the next race, maybe we should just talk about it and kind of put it behind us. Things will happen. Cars will get crashed, feelings will get hurt, but it's how you handle it after that that's important. So, it's just something, and the same thing with the officials. I don't want you having, you know, that's why it's important for me that my officials treat you right, because I want you to look forward to seeing the officials when you show up. I don't want you to think, oh God, here comes that son of a gun again, that whatever, you know. So anyway, that's just, they're not big things, but they're just kind of ways that we like to do things, and we hope that everyone kind of buys into it. And I mean, you guys are going to steer the ship. Just let me know, and I'll turn the wheel the best I can in the right direction.
Some of the things, Larry, that keeps our loyal race team coming to the track week after week after week after week is obviously a tow money program, but then also the potential of provisionals. Do you do provisionals based on points? Ours happens to be 4, and we do it to driver only. It was brought up to me earlier by Danny. I understand you do a owner's points and a driver point table. Is that correct?
No,
for
we don't.
SRL?
It's always owner's points, but I'm okay with driver if that works better here.
So at the end of the year, you can have an owner as your champion, I don't quite
Oh,
understand.
okay, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, your point
Yeah.
table, how's that?
Yeah, we have both in the tour cars, but we don't need to change that here.
Okay.
Can we?
Yeah, good.
Well, we obviously have some,
Some of us don't like
so
it.
car, I can see it now. Chris going, there's nothing wrong with this car, just drive it. If not, I got Doug Ham right here and he wants in it real bad.
On the tow money, I guess I'll allude to that. The way we've done it with the Southwest Tour cars, and Wayne Spears writes the check, which, I know the business side is not something, the business side of the race series is something you guys don't really need to be concerned with, but sometimes it's good that you kind of have an understanding. With Lucas Oil, Forrest Lucas, I'm amazed on what he did with this series and the tools he gave Greg and his staff to do what they've done for you over the years. I won't say it was unlimited, but Forrest was there to support everything along the way. So I'm not saying it was unlimited, I'm just saying that a lot, Forrest was there to support what Greg was doing. The position I'm in now is I have a fixed amount of money to do what we're going to do. Not entirely different, but it's just a little bit different. Kind of like a race team. If your owner said, "Hey, you have this much money," or if the owner just said, "Let's go racing," there's a little bit, not a big change, but there's a change there. You got to just kind of watch everything that you do on that side. The way we do, I'll call it tow money with the tour cars, is it's called the frequent flyer program, and everyone that's on that program, they're on it if they do consecutive races. If they do 3 consecutive races, they're on the program. Doesn't matter where they are in points, but they get on this program, they get a minimum amount of money to start. We're considering that with the modifieds, and the way it would work here is, it was $300 in tow money, right? It's $400 to start, right?
3 and 4, it varied per
Okay.
track.
So those that would be on the program would get a guarantee $700 or whatever the case would be. I think it would probably be $700 at most all tracks. When you show up, you start the race, you're gonna make $700.
As owner or driver though?
Whoever gets paid.
Oh, perfect. I'm in.
No, you're saying that's based on consecutive?
If what I'm getting at is if I run 10 races with 3 different
Yes.
drivers, do I get to stay on the frequent flyer program, is what I'm trying to ask.
And that goes to the spirit of it. You're there supporting us, aren't you?
Yeah.
As a driver, so you're gonna be on it. But that car owner over here, maybe you put someone else in the car you drove 3 races ago, but that car's showing up consecutively, they're gonna be on the program too. I mean, we just think that's fair. But here's how it's different, and there might be some pushback. If it's $400 to start, and if you're on the program, you're getting $700 to start. If the purse money is $400 to start, if you're on the frequent flyer program, you get $700 for starting the race. But if you finish, say you finish 3rd in the race and you made $1,500, there's no bonus to you. There's no extra because everyone's guaranteed $700 if they're on the program. So if you finish up towards the front, then you don't get that bonus. We are going to pay a little bit more for the winner this year, but what that allows us to do is keep the money to the team that had a bad day or needs the help, and it helps stretch that program. We can cut, in the long run, we can cover more territory, help more drivers, more teams by doing it that way. And if you finish 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, or somewhere in the decent money, it's a pretty good day for you, pretty good weekend for you. So,
Don't be misled. When we have a track where it pays $2,000 to win and $1,200 for second, with Larry's purse increases that he's doing, and you really take and look at it, if you take time about what you paid before, now you're getting X amount of dollars to win and $1,500 for second. That $300 is still there. You know what I mean? Because of what he's done to the purse. It's just not directed to the conversation as tow money.
and if we're successful with the series, that there's going to be a lot of money paid out on that program, a lot of money. But that's good. I mean, that's what we want, right?
You said 3 races now, Larry, so when the guys go to Kern in February,
When you go to
who's on this program?
When
to
you go
start
to,
off.
when you go to the first points race at Kern, February 1st and 2nd, everyone's on the program. You're on the program until you miss a race. And probably what'll happen to get back on the program, say you go to the first 3, you're on the program. You missed the 4th race for whatever reason. The first race back, you won't be on the program. Second race back, you'll probably be on the program, but at a reduced bonus. And then by the time you get to the 3rd race, where you've done 3 in a row, you're back on the full 700.
Okay. I can tell you guys the tow money program that we have in existence right now, Lucas Oil took a huge hit because of the inconsistency of cars 18th through 24th in points. And we had guys at Vegas that had only run with us 3-4 times. Ryan Partridge, to give you an example, was 24th in points, and based on our structure, I had to pay him tow money. The good and the bad of that type situation is that $300 could have been spent someplace else, and it wasn't. So this structure has a lot of positivity to it. Okay. Larry, also on that, so we talked about provisionals and that. Do you guys do a different type of invert when it comes to qualifying?
Yeah.
What's your thoughts there?
On what we started 2 years ago, and I stole the idea from the Southeast, qualified, single car qualifying, and we used to do the invert like you guys, where fast time draws up a car, and that's the invert. What we do now, and it really has a good feel to it. I wasn't sure at first, but the top 8 cars at that race from qualifying redraw. So we put down 8 cards, and everyone that gives, I guess one of the things that led me to is I have a driver, the other series, that qualifies first 80% of the time. Well, he never was going to start on the front row. And after a while, I was like, I got a problem with that. So we draw the top 8, and what's kind of cool about it, it really puts a emphasis on qualifying the top 8. It's kind of cool. I mean, everyone's like, man, whatever happens in qualifying, I'm good with it as long as I'm in the top 8. So it's pretty cool. And then I also like it because during driver intros, a lot of times if we have the opportunity, we'll draw out on the front straightaway, and it allows the fans to see, okay, that's the top 8 guys. Okay, past qualifier, second, third, because sometimes when we roll out, we've already drew the invert. If you're a fan just getting there after qualifying, you don't know, you really don't know who set fast time or what, but it's kind of neat to roll the cars out there, let the top 8 draw right there in front of the crowd, because the fast time for that night kind of gets a little bit more attention, which I think is cool, because and unless the fans understand, okay, there's your top 8, that's how the lineup was set, because we do it all right there in front of them. So yeah, that's something we've done for 2 years, and it's worked out pretty good. Again, I'm looking, if you have an issue with that, I'm good. I really look forward to hearing from you about it. Qualifying order, something a little odd that we do, that we'd like to do, continue with the modifieds, is we take their practice times from Saturday. Fastest driver comes over and draws a number. If there's 27 cars there that day, we have 1 to 27. That driver draws, say, 15. Well, that driver's going out 15th in qualifying. The next fastest car is 14th. Then it goes all the way, and then once it gets to
15th will be first qualifier.
Yeah, 15th will be first qualifier, and then it just gets to the 16th and goes down. And that's kind of cool for a couple reasons. The guys that have speed that day, they kind of all qualify in the same area, same time, And also, if we do any checking, it just helps with lineups. If we did a post-qualifying, say, fuel test, all the cars are going to be in a close proximity to one another as they come off the track. So, and plus, you got to figure out some way to do it rather than just say fastest car goes last or fastest car goes first from practice or whatever the deal is. That works pretty good. For inspection, rolling through the scales, we do a lot of that by kind of a similar process, so that you just have to wait in line, you know, with 20 cars sitting there and you're waiting there, pushing your car one car at a time. We like to do time slots and say, hey, these 5 cars show up here, and then what's that time slot? So that's just something we'll explain more. We don't try not to make it complicated. Try to make it simple. When it's a hot day, I hate for the teams to be standing out there pushing their car, you know, one car at a time for too long. We do have this that, again, I don't want to. Some of the stuff might seem a little, I don't know, hard ass, I guess, but like for qualifying tech, we're going to qualify at 4 o'clock. We'll say all the cars for qualifying on the ground at 3 o'clock, ready to roll the tech. Doesn't matter where you are in the order, at 3, we're all putting the cars on the ground, ready to roll. Stay there, an official will come and get you, okay, get in line, get in line, get in line. So we're all not 20 deep in line. Because it just seemed like there was a lot of, if you don't do it that way, then the guys that are later in the thing, they're still working on their cars when other cars already have to push through. So I don't know. It's just something we do. And again, if you guys all say, I don't want any part of that, just let me know. But it seems to work pretty well. And then the other thing is, after qualifying, Spear Southwest Tour Series impounds their cars. They don't work on them after qualifying. I like that because everybody gets a break. Your teams get a break, the officials get a break, and the cars are sitting there ready to go. Now, if you have an issue, of course, we can pull out a line and we'll have policies there. But again, that's more your call than my call. But I just know when it's 103 at Madera or wherever we're at, and you've been there Friday since 2, you need a break at some point that weekend. It's no fun just, I call it, you know, you roll through the gate, your head's down, you're busting your rear end all day, all day, all day, all day, and the checker flag drops on the main event. That's the first time you went, whew, and then you're driving home, you know? So it just, it really makes the weekend more enjoyable for everyone. But again, if you all say, forget that, then I'll say, okay, we're going to forget it. I did have one person say, maybe can we adjust the sway bar after qualifying? That's what y'all want to do, if that would help, you know? So, I don't know. Just some things that we're going to talk about, but please understand, if I put it out in an email, give me some feedback on that. I'm not saying this is what I want to do, so don't disagree with me. I'm putting it out there so you guys will give me the feedback on if you're supportive of it or not. I think I've talked enough.
There you go. Well, Larry is going to be our guest speaker tonight. I hope he's kept a couple of things that he can announce during the banquet tonight. Guys, we got about 10 more minutes before we got to get out of the room here. Any questions?
Tire impound?
I'm sorry?
Tire impound.
Here's where my mind is with tires impound is the tires you're going to race on. The tires you're going to race on, you don't take possession of those until sometime Saturday, like maybe before the last practice or maybe before the first practice. That's just where my head's at.
But you do get to scuff them.
You do to get to scuff them, but if you come in on Friday and
You
you
can't
have,
swap them at that point.
what's that?
You can't swap them at that point. After you scuff. That's what you got,
Yeah.
See, a lot of us right now we'll buy a couple sets of tires,
Mhm.
and we'll go out and we'll scuff both sets and then decide which ones we want to race.
Or
Right.
take your best one or two
Okay.
sets.
Well,
Or combine them and say, okay, now I make 2 good sets.
Mhm.
Or I make 1 good set and the other ones are garbage.
Right.
Because those things this year have been very inconsistent
Inconsistent.
sizing.
okay.
Something, when Larry sends his questionnaire out, guys, voice your opinion on tires. We have spoken, I mentioned to Larry that we're not on a 2040 or whatever numbers they're running these days, full racing tire, sidewall and everything. You know, this is a spec tire. And I do know that on our tires, the inconsistency of them and so forth is tough. That might be a tough way to go for us. All I'm saying is when this questionnaire comes out, get your opinion voiced on this.
When would you make your decision? Usually on Saturday then, if you're working with the
Depends on
two
what you
sets?
scuff, I guess.
Yeah.
Some guys do it on Friday, some guys do it on Saturday.
Okay.
Depends on if you're changing motors on Friday or
Right.
whatever.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to paint anyone to a box. You know, I mean, I always, in regards to tires and racing, I would say there's never a small tire problem. I mean, tires are, I mean, if you have a tire issue.
Have your teams complaining about sizes?
Never. No.
I know we're not the
but-
only one, but these
Yeah.
things have been
This
bad.
tire's
this
different.
year.
Okay,
This year
but
was
keep,
last couple
keep in
days.
mind, their selection on tire sizes are
It's all made in the same
very
place.
limited in respect to, you know, us getting all the way from a large 82 to a small 86, you know, in tires that are made available to us. Some of you have been to the Hoosier place. The way they measure these tires and these chalk marks is beyond ridiculous considering how unique this plant is in itself. But they're on a more consistent tire. In other words, if it's chalk marked 86, you can take it to the bank that'll be 86 all year long, whereas those are not. And we know that. I
So
mean,
how is there a difference? They're made in the same place.
well, yeah,
Well,
but
that's
it's
the structure of
the
tire.
the structure of the
If you watch it,
sidewall
it's
and
just
everything to it.
structured different.
The time and effort and money put into that tire compared to a 2040.
And our guys will, I mean, they'll say, man, I had a set that something wasn't right about it, so it happens, but I don't wanna paint you guys in a box, you know, cause, I mean, you don't have a set of tires that you like, you're not gonna be happy, I don't get that.
But there's no benefit to it changing to that way, right? There's no benefit, I mean, if we don't like that, there's no benefit to doing it for you guys, right?
Not for us, the only thing I like is, I don't want, like, right now, you can get all your tires on Friday, and you can take them home, soak them in the bathtub if you wanted. I'm not saying anyone is, but if race teams think that I think that guy's doing something, I'd like to eliminate that thought process. But if that's too much trouble and it puts everyone in a bind, then we'll just have to deal with that you know, that thought. On the tech side and control, majority of my efforts my officials' efforts are just trying to make sure everyone feels like no one's getting away with anything. And so that's one thing. If you say your Saturday tires are going to be here until Saturday, at least everyone knows that those tires didn't go somewhere overnight. And you know,
What about possibly, if we're not sure what we're gonna do, give us our tires, we scuff tires, and at the end of practice, bring back the set we plan on racing on.
Yeah, you plan your.
Turn them back in. If we
Yeah.
don't know what that set is, then we're turning everything back in until Saturday.
yeah, that's really not a problem.
Does Hoosier scan your tires and track, so do you know, for instance, that these 4 tires that were marked for the number 25 car did actually go to the 25 car? See, we got a lot of teams out here, and if they're not teams, at least their crew chief has the capability of 3 or 4 cars, which is a real disadvantage to a guy that has 1 car and he's got 4 tires. And this guy's got 32 tires there because he's a 4-car team or a 4-car crew chief group
Yep.
to select from. I mean, and what an advantage that can be,
Could be, yeah.
you know? And matching up, you know, whatever his desired sizes and stuff are. But what you're telling me with the SRL, you don't really know if that set of tires went to the 25 car, if that was,
I could almost guarantee, well, here, in SRL, you're required to have your number on your wheels with a decal, so that Hoosier knows what tires are mounting for. As I think I've explained to some of you, and if you don't know what we're gonna do with Hoosier, is you can call Hoosier anytime before race weekend and say, hey, I need 2 sets, here's the chalk marks I need. When you show up, they're gonna be stacked up outside that trailer with your number on them. If you send them wheels from the previous race, they'll dismount those tires and wheels, mount up your new ones, so you'll show up and they'll be mounted and waiting for you.
already
I
mounted,
suggested
waiting
that,
for you.
Greg, remember? A
A
couple
few years
times.
ago.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So with that being said, Hoosier's probably gonna say, you guys need to have your numbers on your wheels, so they'll know, you know, it'll allow them to keep tracking. When Robert from Hoosier, Perryman's there, he won't mount your wheels unless they have a number on them, so. But the tire deal, you know, we'll do what works for you, but to answer the question, as a series, we like to control them just so it doesn't put the doubt in anyone's mind that someone outside their own teams and get away with something.
There's a lot of things that happen in tech that you guys aren't always familiar with and stuff. The top three after every single race, we take tire temps along with hardness gauge, because obviously the temperature of that tire can vary the hardness of that tire. The UPC tracking of that tire, that fact is the tire that we sold to Chris Bray that's on Justin's car and did run the main event and so forth. So our checks and balances on tires has become very good. However, it's labor intense. And anytime you say labor, you say cost and stuff. So that's something that, you all have to figure out here.
The final thing I want to say is, and I said it at Vegas, we as a race series have to be of value to the racetracks that host us. Like number one, I mean, if the racetracks don't see a race series as a value to them, then we start running out of places to compete, which means it's important when we go to a track that every race, I mean, every time we have an event on the schedule, it's important for us to put our best foot forward and be supportive of that event. Make sure that racetrack, it's a tough business to be in, believe me. I can tell you straight out, anyone that's in it, it's a tough business. But when your series goes to that racetrack and brings 26 plus cars, that racetrack is impressed. It's a good back gate for them for the weekend. The fans are going to come to see it, and then hopefully we put on a really good show. If we do those three things, then they'll keep wanting us back. And to this day, they want you there, and but we can't lose sight of that. The sponsors of the series, it's again not something that's. You have other things to worry about. But those people that put money into the series, we can never lose sight that we are representatives of their companies. And whatever their business is, they work extremely hard for that money. I know many of you own your own businesses, and you work hard for your money. And if you give it to somebody that you want to associate your company with, it's important that whoever that is, and in this case it's our race series, that we do a good job. So, I even have the 2 races ago, and this is a rarity with the SRL teams, but somebody had to pull the prank on somebody at the hotel. Like they put toilet paper and trash and stuff all over outside of their hotel room, right? And they had been drinking.
No.
Come race car drivers.
And believe me, I'm all about us having fun when we go to the racetrack, but the
Where
hotel.
were you, Greg?
The hotel, we have a corporate deal with the hotel, and so, that morning, I get the text of the photo of all the trash and all the this, and the hotel didn't think it was funny. All right, well, that's not good because they're a sponsor of the series. If stuff's going to happen, and we're going to have fun, but, I don't want Bob Pattison from Lucas Oil hearing about a team doing something that didn't represent Lucas Oil well, or Wayne Spears, because again, they don't have to spend money supporting our race series. And if we give them a reason to say, I'm out,
We don't want to do that.
we do not want to do that. So I just kind of keep that in mind. Even my officials, with the internet and where photos or stuff can get worldwide, like in a moment, I've had to have a talk with them. Hey, we're going to enjoy the weekend, but just keep in mind when you're wearing that logo or the Lucas Oil logo or whatever it is, that we are representatives. And it's just, we are fortunate to have those companies support us because it makes what we do possible. Like the tow money, frequent flyer program, stuff like that, that's money directly to the teams that could go away in an instant. I know with Wayne Spears, loves racing, but he doesn't sponsor any race series out of the goodness of his heart. He sponsors that race series to take care of his customers at the racetrack and to sell little pieces of plastic pipe, and the man sells a lot of it. But I'll tell you what, if something happened, if I made a mistake, if something happened, the phone call would be like this on Monday. Take the logo off your race series, click. Seriously, that's how the conversation would go. If he If something came across his desk, or he was made aware of something that he decided he didn't want the name of his company on our race series, it would be that quick and it would be over. And then I would say,
Uh-oh.
now what? You know, and, but like I said, the check for the frequent flyer program comes right out of Mr. Spears' account, right to you guys.
Something that you can all help us with is rookies of the year that are coming along, other race teams that might not necessarily get our emails and so forth. When Larry does put out this sheet for you to fill out, you know, Facebook it, do whatever we got to do to get it out to other race teams. So one, everybody knows what we're doing, and two, the potential guy that didn't get a chance to see it. Also, when you turn this back in to Larry, identify yourself, and it's there's no repercussions whatsoever. But we don't want a large group of people all answering in Chris Bray's name. Well, you know what I mean. We don't want every one of these guys turning in a sheet, and the only input we're getting is from the K family, or they're all from Steve Teeks, and they're all leading towards him. So identify yourself so we know, you know, who we're talking to.
I may even just send it to, say, the top 25 in points for the year, like one person. I might do that when it comes time for that.
That's fine, but I'll tell you that the chassis builders, I would at least put them in the loop.
Oh, for
too.
sure. Yeah. Yep.
Anything spark your interest real quick here? Okay, it is a little after 4. We do have to get out of here. If you'll help us out, I'm putting the chairs back at the table, and then we'll open the doors at 5:30, eat at 6.
If you don't have a business card, please take one.